AB2. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2 by Assemblymember Alejo and others, an act relating to economic development.
Assemblymember Alejo, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I have before you today AB2, which will allow certain blighted areas of California to create a new entity called the Community Revitalization Investment Authority, or CREA, to work towards tackling issues facing our state's most disadvantaged communities. In 2011, the state dissolved its redevelopment agencies, driven primarily by the cost of redevelopment to the state's general fund. But the needs of struggling communities did not go away. AB2 will work to change this by investing property tax increments of consenting local agencies other than schools to improving our local communities. This will grow jobs, reduce crime, repair deteriorating and inadequate infrastructure, clean up brownfield sites, and promote affordable housing. The bill requires 25% of the funds to be set aside for affordable housing as well, and will help keep and rebuild impoverished communities across the state. If we don't fix our existing neighborhoods, then cities will sprawl outward, worsening costly problems like traffic and greenhouse gases. And we all know that real smart starts with making the most of what you already have. I have already worked tirelessly on this concept for the last 3 years, and although the governor did not sign AB 2280 last year, I'm optimistic that he will sign AB 2 this year, given the technical changes we have made. This bill has received bipartisan support in the Assembly Housing and Community Development Committee, local government, and appropriations committees. This year, we will have also made this bill a priority bill for the Latino Legislative Caucus because it benefits, the benefits it offers to the most disadvantaged communities. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Assemblymember Cristina Garcia.
Mr. Speaker, members, I rise as the co-author of AB 2. AB 2 will allow specified disadvantaged areas of California to create a new entity. This bill will help disadvantaged communities like the cities that I represent. My cities receive less than 7 cents per dollar on property taxes collected, which is why redevelopment was so critical to clean up brownfields and to promote affordable housing in my district. AB 2 is a sensible measure that will once again allow communities across the state to invest in themselves. However, in contrast to former redevelopment, AB 2 has a number of safeguards to ensure that community is truly benefiting from the program. The bill requires that a revitalization entity provides detailed plans at the outset and allows residents to reject a proposal by vote of the people. In addition, 2 community members will get to sit on the board, and those affected can dissolve the agency if it is not working in their favor. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Mullen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I rise in strong support of AB 2. This is the third time the author has presented a bill on this issue. For the third time, I'm pleased to co-author. I believed at the time and still believe it was an egregious error to eliminate redevelopment agencies during a recession. At the time, I was the mayor of the city of South San Francisco and was disappointed that the state was considering eliminating the only statewide economic development and affordable housing tool that we had at our disposal. However, what's done is done. So today, as policymakers, we need to figure out how to maintain the current economic rebound and create new tools to address future slowdowns. AB 2 is such a tool. AB 2 takes the best of the old redevelopment approach and eliminates those provisions that didn't work so well. I applaud the author for his efforts, and I'm happy to co-author and urge all to support AB 2.
Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, I too rise as a joint author to AB 2 and keep my message simple. As legislators of this great state, we need to ensure that our local governments are well equipped with the tools they need to be able to overcome economic barriers and help improve the lives of Californians. That's why I respectfully ask for your ayes vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Alejo, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, when all our council members came just a few days ago for the League of Cities, your council members came and approached you with the list of important bills that would really help address the issues most pressing to our local cities, our local governments. And number one on that list was this bill, AB 2. And we often talk about a lot of issues, but if we're serious about addressing crime in our neighborhoods, this is a tool to do it. If you're serious about attracting jobs and keeping local resources to help grow and expand businesses that are already in your communities or attract new ones, this is a tool to do it. If we're serious about addressing the income inequality gap in California, to address the most vulnerable in our state, this is a tool to do that. And if you're also serious about bringing affordable housing for your local workforce, this is a tool for your cities to do it. 2 things. This bill includes things that weren't in previous redevelopment. It has the most accountability measures ever for a tool of its kind. And we worked on with the governor and the stakeholders to ensure that. And then lastly, this bill keeps true to the original intent of redevelopment law, which is to help those communities most in need, to help communities with high crime, high poverty, and high unemployment. We can make this bill become law this year. With your support, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. The ayes 63, noes 12. Measure passes. File item 83, AB 53. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 53 by Assemblymember Cristina Garcia, an act relating to vehicles.
Assemblymember Cristina Garcia, you may open.
AB 53 would require children to remain in rear-facing car seats until the age of 2. This would bring California law in line with the 2011 recommendation by the American Academy of Pediatrics. A child is 75% less likely to die or be severely injured if they are facing to the rear. Despite educational campaigns by doctors and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, not enough parents are changing their behavior. 75% of parents still turn their children forward facing too early. Our bill is supported by doctors, insurance companies, and children's groups. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Assemblymember Bigelow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My fellow members, I rise today to share my support for this bill. I know a lot of our members on our side of the aisle may kind of go, what the heck, Frank? We wanted to look at this in a different way. Well, I've got to tell you, I spent 30-plus years as an EMT, as a frontline medic, and I've gone to far too many accidents on our highways and our county roads, and I've seen too many youth lose their lives because they were improperly strapped in to a car seat. I think this bill accomplishes a great deal, and I believe that it merits our full support today by all members on this floor. No life should come between us and saving a dollar. We should all stand up and rise and put that little pettiness of cost aside so that we can save the youth for the future. Thank you for sharing your aye vote today.
Assemblymember Rodriguez.
I also rise in support of this bill as a 30-year first responder. I've seen the dangers of these accidents that occur to take the tragic lives of our young folks. So thank you, and I also request an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Assemblymember Garcia, you may close.
Ask for an aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 62, noes 12. The measure passes. Let's go to file item 84, AB 202. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 202 by Assemblymember Gonzalez, an act relating to employment.
Assemblymember Gonzalez, you may open.
Speaker and members, we've all heard the stories about the NFL's problem with respect to women. This includes the long-standing tradition of treating their cheerleaders as glorified volunteers, independent contractors, or simply refusing to abide by basic wage and hour laws. AB 202 would clarify what we believe to be California law already and ensure that professional cheerleaders and dancers are treated as employees protected by all of California's employment law, including a minimum wage or a local living wage for required practice time, performance, and any other ambassador or modeling jobs, payment for overtime and paid sick leave, and workers' compensation in case of an injury. Specifically, this bill will also hold professional sports teams accountable for the employment practices of their chosen contractor, subject to last year's AB 1897. This bill simply demands that any professional sports team treat women on the field with the same dignity and respect that we treat the guys selling beer. Members, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 52, noes 21. The measure passes. File items 85 and 86 we will pass and retain. File item 87, AB 320. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 320 by Assemblymember Wood, an act relating to engineers.
Dr. Wood, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. California leads the world in environmental policies, and it has implemented some of the most comprehensive environmental regulations in the world. AB 320 provides a path to licensure as environmental engineers for those professional engineers that do not fit under the scope of the existing practice and title acts. Currently, environmental engineers practice without the official licensure or regulations. As environmental protection programs continue to expand in scope and complexity, testing and certification of environmental engineers are needed to establish benchmarks for competency. Environmental engineers carry out tasks specific to soil science, chemistry, and biology, solving environmental problems by using their knowledge of engineering, pollution control, recycling, and public health issues. The current list of recognized professional engineers does not cover these job duties, nor are they trained to do so. Testing, licensure, and establishing regulations for environmental engineers will ensure a proper certification structure that will safeguard our communities. AB 320 was passed out of the Assembly Business and Professions Committee with unanimous and bipartisan support. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 77, no 0. The measure passes. File item 88, AB 332. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 332 by Assemblymember Calderon and others, an act relating to insurance.
Assemblymember Calderon, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Every day, more than 10,000 Americans are turning 65. In California, the number of citizens 65 or older is projected to increase to almost 9 million by 2030, or about 18% of the expected population. And as our good colleague from Riverside likes to say, this is our silver tsunami. With seniors making up such a significant portion of the population, California currently lacks a sustainable option for our seniors, as well as people with cognitive or physical disabilities, to meet the demands for long-term care services they will soon need. Without generating alternatives for people to obtain long-term care, the aging middle class must decide whether to spend down their assets in order to qualify for Medi-Cal or to exhaust their personal assets to pay for private care services. This becomes a lose-lose situation for our most vulnerable in our society. This is why I am authoring AB 332, which would create the Long-Term Care Insurance Task Force to provide recommendations to the Insurance Commissioner to come up with sustainable options for providing long-term care insurance. This measure is supported by SEIU, California Health Advocates, Older Women's League, United Domestic Workers of America, along with many others, and currently has no opposition. Thank you, and I respectfully request an aye vote.
Assemblymember Brown on the silver tsunami.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a co-author of AB 332, I stand in support. Our state and our nation are facing a crisis in relation to the financing of long-term care. Traditionally, long-term care has fallen on family caregivers, but with the shifting demographics promising fewer caregivers for a larger population in need, most Californians are not financially prepared for the cost. That lack of preparation will become apparent as our senior population continues to grow at a rate of about 3 times that of the general population. Just as families provide cares, so the government has to do it when the families can't. Their personal resources dry up very quickly. How can California's best position itself to navigate the perfect caregiving financial storm that's going to be bearing down on us today? By passing AB 323 or 332, this is important. It will help us to plan to confront that silver tsunami, and I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Assemblymember Calderon, you may close.
I'd like to thank my colleague for her support as well as her leadership on this issue, and respectfully ask for an aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 58, noes 15. The measure passes. File item 89, AB 338. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 338 by Assemblymember Roger Hernandez, an act relating to transportation.
Mr. Hernandez, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Assembly Bill 338 allows LA Metro to impose by ordinance an additional countywide 1/2 cents sales tax for transportation purposes if approved by 2/3 of the voters. The bill includes safeguards and transparency language to ensure an equitable investment of resources within Los Angeles and requires notification to the legislature prior to amending the adopted expenditure plan. The bill also limits the collection of the tax to 30 years and allocates a certain percentage of revenues for bus and rail operations. As LA Metro continues to work with the Sub-Regional Council of Governments to develop priorities for a potential expenditure plan for a new sales tax measure, AB 338 furthers that commitment by providing constructive parameters to ensure a fair and equitable distribution of resources and investments throughout the county. In closing, AB 338 provides an approach to bring additional resources to Los Angeles County predicated on fairness and an acknowledgement of past best practices of investing in transit. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Holden, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I rise too in support of AB 338 and to thank the author for his leadership on this important area. This is an important measure for all of us from Los Angeles County. This measure authorizes the voters to weigh in on a countywide ballot measure to significantly expedite the construction of critical transit projects across Los Angeles County. This measure ensures that the expenditure plan drafted by LA Metro is fair, neutral, and contains investments across the county. These provisions will be critical to the measure's ultimate success before the voters. When Measure R was passed in 2008, it spurred a building boom of transit projects across Los Angeles County, putting people to work and getting commuters out of their cars. It is time to build on Measure R's success, and I ask for your aye vote on AB 338.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Mr. Hernandez, you may close.
I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 45, noes 28. The measure passes. File items 91 and 90 and 91 pass and retain, as well as file item 92, which will pass and retain. File item 93, AB 552, the clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 552 by Assemblymember O'Donnell, an act relating to public contracts.
Mr. O'Donnell, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to present AB 552, which requires public agencies to specify upfront in their public works contracts the amount of potential damages associated with construction project delays. The uncertainty created by some agencies failing to define these damages has led to situations where projects simply cannot be underwritten by an insurance company and therefore do not get completed. AB 552 restores certainty to public contracts. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 73, noes 0. The measure passes. File item 94, AB 566. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 566 by Assemblymember O'Donnell, an act relating to school facilities.
Again, back to Mr. O'Donnell. You may open.
Mr. Speaker, AB 566 does two things. First, the bill requires contractors and any subcontractors for school district leaseback, and lease-to-own projects to use skilled and trained workforce. This bill will provide some assurances that we are getting a quality project. The second part of this bill deals with pre-qualification. Current law requires school districts using state bond funds to pre-qualify potential contractors and major subcontractors for any project over $1 million. The Department of Industrial Relations is required to submit a report to the legislature in 2018. State bond funds for new construction and modernization projects have been exhausted. This bill will extend pre-qualifications to all school construction projects over $1 million, regardless of the funding source, so that we can get sufficient data. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 51, noes 24. The measure passes. File items 95, 96, 97, and 98 will pass and retain. File item 99, AB 941. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 941 by Assemblymember Wood, an act relating to clinics.
Assemblymember Wood, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. The majority of California tribal health clinics are located in rural areas of the state. The constituents in my district have limited access to health care services due to the geography and the rural nature of my district. Tribal clinics cannot always establish new clinics on Indian land, as many of their members live off the reservation or the rancheria. This requires opening new clinics on non-Indian land in order to better provide access to and care for their patients. The licensing process to open a tribal clinic on non-Indian land is duplicative, time-consuming, and costly, especially when it comes to the state facility license from the Department of Public Health. Tribal health clinics are licensed under the federal government and Indian Health Service licensing processes. These federal regulations already cover the same requirements of DPH's state facility license requirements. AB 941 exempts tribal health clinics located off of Indian lands from the Department of Public Health state facility license. This bill only addresses the exemption of clinics from the DPH facility licensing while still complying with other state laws such as Cal OSHA, the Cal Fire Code, California Building Standards Codes, seismic standards, patient employee and safety and compliance law, and many other requirements. Worker safety and protections are completely covered through compliance with other state laws. The time and resources used in a duplicative application with the state could be better spent on providing for additional health care needs in the district. AB 941 received bipartisan support coming out of the Assembly Health and Appropriations. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Cooley.
Colleagues, I rise in support of this. The California Rural Indian Health Board, which is one of the backers of this measure, has been working for 3 decades looking to assist the beneficial service of health care services to the tribes in California. This is a very important bill and one that grows out of their long experience, familiarity with the particular challenges of providing health care across this great, expansive geography of our state. Tremendous bill. I'm honored to rise in support.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, Dr. Wood, you may close.
I just want to thank my colleague for the support, and I urge an aye vote, or respectfully ask for an aye vote. Excuse me. Thank you.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 73, no 0. The measure passes. File items 100 and 101 we will pass and retain. File item 102, AB 1063, the clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1063 by Assemblymember Williams, an act relating to solid waste.
Assemblymember Williams, you may open.
Mr. Speaker, members, California is the leader in progressive waste reduction policies like composting and recycling, yet our landfill tipping fees do little to drive materials to higher and better uses. This is partially due to the fact that tipping fees are so low they offer little disincentive to landfilling. Further, as the state moves towards the 75% diversion goal, the resulting reduction in disposal will cause a sharp decline in tipping fee revenue, which supports CalRecycle's oversight of disposal and recycling. With landfills projected to play a diminishing role in solid waste materials management, disposal and diversion program funding options should be reassessed so that they're not completely reliant on tipping fees. My bill requires CalRecycle to develop a legislative proposal to address the funding shortfall. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 54, noes 19. The measure passes. File item 103, AB 1072. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1072 by Assemblymember Daley, an act relating to insurance.
Mr. Daley, you may open.
Mr. Speaker and members, this bill would provide certainty that the police officers and firefighters currently paying for long-term benefits are truly protected and will receive the benefits that are promised to them. The bill includes a simple one-time requirement for information to be provided to the State Insurance Commissioner. The information will be in the form of an actuarial report. This is a normal and common solvency evaluation tool. This bill does not create or empower the Department of Insurance to create any additional regulatory structure. The bill passed out of committee with bipartisan support and currently has no opposition. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 77, no 0. The measure passes. File item 104, we will pass and retain. File item 105, we've already dispensed with in our motions and resolutions. File item 106, AB 1175, the clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1175 by Assemblymember Ridley Thomas, an act relating to consumer affairs.
Assemblymember Ridley Thomas, you may open.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, members, I rise to present AB 1175, which allows for the Bureau of Electronic and Appliance Repair, Home Furnishings, and Thermal Insulation, colloquially known as BEAR-HEFTY, by its acronym, to raise its statutory ceiling for licensing fees. They have two separate funds, one of which goes insolvent in a year and a half, another of which goes insolvent in 2 years. This simply raises the cap and allows the Bureau to be in contact with its licensed and regulated professionals in order to have a solvent fund so that they can provide for consumer protection on appliances and home furnishings. With that, Mr. Speaker, I respectfully request an aye vote. I would mention that it's supported by the Natural Resources Defense Council, and the Bureau itself brought the bill to our attention in light of the fiscal situation of the two nearly insolvent accounts. Thank you.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 50, noes 22. The measure passes. File item 107, AB 1177. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1177 by Assemblymember Gomez and others, an act relating to primary care clinics.
Assemblymember Gomez, you may open.
Mr. Speaker and members, today I'm presenting Assembly Bill 1177, which will allow community clinics to operate without discrimination by repealing a regulation that prevents them from getting a license. Clinics have an important role in making sure that all Californians have access to the medical care they deserve. AB 1177 does not prevent a clinic from seeking a hospital transfer agreement with the hospital. AB 1177 simply puts all clinics on an equal footing for obtaining a license from the Department of Public Health. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 49, noes 26. The measure passes. File item 108, we will pass and retain. File item 109, AB 1270. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1270 by Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia and others, an act relating to workforce development.
Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, AB 1270 comprehensively updates California's primary workforce development program to reflect the new requirements of the Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act of 2014. This bill is sponsored by the California Labor and Workforce Development Agency and is supported by a wide range of businesses, economic development interests, including the California Chamber of Commerce, California Workforce Investment Boards, and the California Manufacturers and Technology Association. For those reasons, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 71, no 0. The measure passes. File items 110 and 111 we will pass and retain. File item 112, AB 305. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 305 by Assemblymember Gonzalez and others, an act relating to employment.
Assemblymember Gonzalez.
Speaker, today women and men are treated differently within workers' compensation. Gender bias is not allowed in the workplace or in hiring decisions, and charging more for health insurance premiums based on gender is now against federal law. It's time that our workers' compensation rules in California reflect these same values. AB 305 eliminates blatant gender bias against working women in California. Specifically, this bill would go beyond the current AMA rating guide and update our code so that the rating for losing a breast due to work-related cancer can no longer be less than the rating for prostate cancer. The current rating for losing a breast is 0%, or up to 5% for women of childbearing age. However, men who suffer prostate cancer can get a rating for up to 20%. This legislation also disallows pregnancy, menopause, or osteoporosis from being considered during apportionment when these conditions are contemporaneous with the work injury. And it prevents apportionment for disability or impairment caused by sexual harassment. California has been a leader on workplace equity issues. Our strength, size, and national significance make it a critical place to move the needle on workplace policies for women. AB 305 is part of this overall fight for equity in the workplace. Being a woman should never be a pre-existing condition. Members, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing and hearing no further debate, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 55, no 0. The measure passes. File items 113 through 116 will pass and retain. File item 117, ACR 61, we've already dispensed with. At this time, let's move to our consent calendar. Does any member wish to remove an item from the consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will read the second day consent calendar.
Assembly Bill 1040 by Assemblymember Ting, an act relating to taxation.
The clerk will open the roll of the consent calendar. All those vote who desire to vote. All those vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll and tally the votes. Ayes 79, no 0. The consent calendar is adopted. At this time, the clerk will read the remaining bills on the second day consent calendar.
Assembly Bill 1110.
Ayes 79, no 0.
Assembly Bill 807.
Ayes 79, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1036.
Ayes 79, no 0.
Assembly Bill 632.
Ayes 79, no 0.
Assembly Bill 693.
Ayes 79, no 0.
And Assembly Bill 636.
Ayes 79, no 0. Colleagues, at this time, we'll now move to announcements and adjournments in memory. The following members were granted prior permission to speak on an adjournment in memory. Mr. McCarty, you are recognized at your desk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. It's with deep regret that I rise today and ask that we adjourn in memory of Betty Perry. Born and raised in Sacramento, Betty served her community with distinction as an educator, the local high school, and later as a senior advocate here at the state capitol. After receiving her degree at UC Berkeley, she spent 4 decades here in Sacramento teaching and counseling at Kit Carson and C.K. McClatchy High School. She notes that she taught Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy, former State Senator Deborah Ortiz, and the late Congressmember Robert Matsui. After her husband, Calvin, passed away, she joined the Sacramento Capitol chapter of the Older Women's League, where she was a fixture here in the halls as a strong advocate for health access and social justice. She also worked closely with many other organizations such as AARP, California Seniors Coalition, and the Great Panthers chapter in Sacramento. She always made sure that she had a chance to speak up for those without a voice and make sure that everybody knew what seniors needed here in our local community and throughout California. Those who knew her well describe her as tough as nails, but someone with a heart of gold. She'll be greatly missed by all of us who had the pleasure of knowing and working with her, and I ask that we respectfully adjourn in her memory.
Assemblymember Brown.
I would like to add to, as Mr. Speaker, thank you. I would like to add to the Betty Perry remembrance. Betty Perry was well known here in Sacramento, but she was also well known throughout the state. She was the president of the Older Women's League, as was said earlier. Their motto is very interesting. It is, as an older woman, I have the right to expect quality as well as quantity of life in order to add years to my life and life to my years. Betty would be looking down on us today. Let's continue her legacy. Thank you.
That concludes our adjourns in memory for today. Members, please bring the names to the desk to be printed in the journal. All requests to adjourn in memory will be deemed read and printed in the journal. Moving to announcements, I'd like to take a moment and recognize Mr. Ridley Thomas for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I simply rise to say a happy belated Mother's Day to the mothers who serve in this House and on our staffs. Your sacrifice is appreciated, and we certainly hope that you had a wonderful day yesterday. I would encourage you all and your staffs to promote Well Women's Week, which encourages a wellness look for women. White House, wellwomen.com or .gov is a federal website that promotes that, and we want to see more of you doing well and serving more, so hopefully you take advantage of that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to thank our Mother's Day recipients and leaders in this legislature.
Thank you and happy Mother's Day to all. The scheduled session this week is as follows. Tuesday, May the 12th, check-in session. Wednesday, May the 13th, check-in session. Thursday, May the 14th, floor session at 9 a.m. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions continue. Seeing and hearing no further business, I'm ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Holden moves. Ms. Olson seconds that this House stands adjourned until Thursday, May the 14th at 9 a.m. Quorum call is lifted.